I have been trying to record this video ever since I saw the post on Facebook about how to choose the right curriculum and not waste your money. The reality is, the only way you can not waste your money is if you could try a different curriculum from the library. So be prepared. You're going to waste some money. But the good thing is that homeschoolers are willing to buy used curriculum, and therefore you have a market to sell it. So be encouraged in that one. The main way that you can minimize the amount of money that you waste is to do some very deep reflection. Why are you homeschooling? Is it just for a little while? Is it for the long term? Do you only want to plan to homeschool through middle school? Are you planning on homeschooling through high school? Do you expect your child to go to college? What is your end goal? That's number two. One, why? Two, what is your end goal? If you don't know exactly right now, then mentally prepare yourself, write it down, write all this stuff down, type it up in a Word document, have your plan A through middle school or plan A through this pandemic, plan B through middle school, plan C through high school, plan D, they're going to college. I say that because depending on what your end result is going to be, your method might need to be a little different. Um, if your child is gifted, it's going to look a little bit different. So you need to know the dynamic of your home. You need to know the dynamic of your family. You need to know what your end result is going to be. Period. Know your why. It can be anything. If you're homeschooling because you think that the curriculum used at public school is crap, you're going to choose a certain curriculum that includes certain things that are not included in the public school system. That's going to affect your choice because you can very well buy the curriculum that is offered at public schools. That's an option. There are plenty of curriculums out there that are for sale that line up perfectly with the curriculum at public schools. I avoid them like the plague. You might run to them like a moth to a flame. I have no judgments for you because my goal for my children is not going to be the exact same as the goal for yours. So, you found your why. You know how you're going to get there. Now, you need to study the requirements for your state. I kind of do these in order because in my mind, after I figure out my why and how I'm going to get there, then I want to research the method. How am I going to do it? There's the Charlotte Mason method, which is very common nowadays because basically you're just reading books, which is to me that's the classical model. So it takes the order of okay, Charlotte Mason to me is basically the classical method in my understanding of it. Yes, Charlotte Mason does. People say that the hallmark of the Charlotte Mason method is nature study, but to me, that's just normal study. That's just what you do. Period. Um, because I was educated classically in a private school, so to me, the Charlotte Mason method is the exact same thing as the classical method. The only difference to me that I can actually totally notice is that the classical method is more rigorous, and it's instead of reading living books per se, you would be more or less reading encyclopedias, for lack of a better example as to the real difference between the two. Because to me, learning classically is just the natural way of learning. But you can determine that on your own. So to me, I say that I'm I'm a classical oriented teacher with TJ Thomas Jefferson education minded leadership end result, but I use Charlotte Mason's reading preference choices. So if you don't know what any of that means, I recommend that you read three books. The Well Trained Minds book. I can't remember the name of it, but I have it. The Charlotte Mason Companion. I don't own it. I got it at the library. And the Thomas Jefferson Education. I mean, I honestly think that everybody wants to do that in reality. I think that's what everybody is hoping for um, when they homeschool their children in the first place. They want to teach their children the things that they're not learning in public school. Um, Now, the Montessori method is more hands-on. The Waldorf method is more artsy, where you're doing a lot of more painting and things like that. So that's the difference there. But other than that, I think the premise, the base ideal is those three things. I'm not very artsy, so I'm not very scrapbooky. So I'm not real. I thought about the Waldorf method and I understand what it is. You want to be able to be immersed and put your hands in everything, but I'm a single mom and I don't have time for that. And I definitely don't have the money to afford it. I will tell you right now, the Waldorf method and the Montessori method are very expensive. The classical method and the Charlotte Mason method, you can go to the library and check out some books. Yep. And if you have an Amazon Prime account and you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get some of the books that way. And libraries are allowing you to get digital copies of books, so books can be ultimately free. um there's that, and then there are a lot more curriculums that are basically just lesson plans. You can just pay for the lesson plans and you go from there. Build Your Library is my favorite. I have a plethora of books. I mean, every time I get some extra money, I buy some books. But I'm deviating just a little bit. So after you research your method, that's when you need to think about the subjects that you want to teach. Do you want to focus on nature study? Do you want to focus on art? Do you want to focus on music, science? Well, obviously, you have to do science and history and the basics, but the extras. Think about the subjects that you want to teach. And then, if not before, or if not after, immediately after, you need to research your state's requirements. But most states are pretty simple. You need to learn history, math, science, social studies. That's the basics. You need to learn your state's history and you need to learn fire safety and first aid. That's like every state. I don't think there's a state that says not to teach those things. They might be a little bit more vague and say just teach them the basic life skills, but those are the things that they need. They need to know math. They need to know how to read. I mean, duh. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why in the world that has to be a state mandate thing. Like, obviously, I'm going to teach my child to read. Obviously, I'm going to teach my child how to do math. I want my child to understand the world that they live in, so I'm going to teach them science. And if they're going to be a productive citizen in the world, they need to know civics. They need to know the history of the state. And to me, that's a given. But that's me. So, and I'm learning more and more every day that everybody doesn't have the same common sense. So, check your state's requirements and then make sure that you get that minimum in and then figure out what time will allow you to do anything extra. And then go to Rainbow Resources with your budget. You know how much money you make, you know how much money you have left free, you know what you can get from the library, you know what you can afford to buy. So go to Rainbow Resources with your list of topics and your teaching method and search. The thing that I love about Rainbow Resources is that you can search specifics. If you want a secular history curriculum, you type in secular history and the grade you want, and you can find it. I love it. And if you want a religious worldview, you can find it. If you want, I think it's only Christian worldview. I don't think you can find any other type of worldview on there because I don't think there's any curricula that are anything other than Christian on there. I'm currently trying to create a curriculum that's philosophy based, so that's that. But um, more to come. I'm working on it. Baby finally went to sleep. So those are the basic steps. I mean, when I was figuring it out, it took me some time. You also have to talk to your children and you have to know how your children learn. But they only give you a little bit of input because most of all, you have to be comfortable teaching. So you have to choose a curriculum that goes the way you teach. The phone keeps ringing and I don't have time to backtrack. So find your why, figure out where you're going, what your end result will be. Make sure you write those things down and then figure out the method you want to use, classical, Waldorf, whatever your budget is. Then you need to figure out what your state requirements are. You need to talk to your children. Talk to your children. If they're over the age of 6, talk to your children. That will help you avoid paying an exorbitant amount of money. Talk to your kids because they know what they're interested in. Like, for example, when I was picking out a math curriculum, I was showing them the regular old Singapore math, and they didn't like that it was just black and white. Okay, well, we landed on Beast Academy because it's a comic book. They love it. They read it by themselves. They practice the work they want, and they decided they don't like the workbook that goes along with Beast Academy. They prefer the Math and Focus workbook. Okay. Whatever works. I can afford to get the books, the comic books for the lessons, and then I can get the worksheets and the workbooks from Math in Focus, or you know what? We can just print out free worksheets from an online source. Okay. So that's how that can go. So don't forget to talk to your children. Now, if you're starting young enough, then they'll just be happy to be spending time with you. And I cannot stress that enough. Little kids, ages 4, 5, and 6, to an extent, don't care. If they're playing with you, if you're reading to them, if you're sitting down and you say we're doing school, they love spending time with you. They are happy that you are paying them all the attention in the world. They will, if you are saying their name and you are giving them prizes and you are saying they are the best thing in the world, they don't care what you're doing. And they will continue on until the end of time. When I got ready to start homeschooling my 5-year-old, he was like, "Oh, we're doing school. We're doing school now." We sat, we listened to music. I fumbled through the lesson plan because I had no idea how to read a lesson plan. And he was just so happy at the end of the day. And I felt like I didn't do anything right. He did not care. He was happy that I was there. And he was excited that we were listening to music and playing in the house and we were doing school. This was school to him. And he still feels that way. He still feels that way to this day. He's 11 and he is happy that I'm spending time with him and he knows that I'm creating lesson plans for him. Best school ever. And after you do those steps and you know what your budget is, there's no way in the world you can waste your money unless you get shiny object syndrome and decide, "Oh, well, I saw this, that, and the other." But the thing is, don't look anymore. Don't look anymore. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. You know what your goal is. You know how you like to teach. You know how your children like to learn. They like to be with you if they're young enough. They don't care. Period. If you can afford the extra projects, get the extra project. If you can't afford the extra project, they're going to have to watch YouTube. I'm sorry. But that's just how it is. You can only afford so much. And since I basically live in public housing and my income is bupkis, I afford my curriculum with my income tax refund. I get my income tax refund and I splurge on curriculum, which is one reason why I typically start school in January. And I buy my new curriculum for the next year in March or April. So my YouTube videos were always out of whack. Like everybody's buying curriculum in the summertime and getting ready in August. And I'm like, I'm trying to finish getting my plans together for January because we still homeschooling from this year. And you know how that goes. But anyway, so you need to know what your budget is, and then you go with your method, and then you can buy the curriculum that you want from Rainbow Resources. Research it. Ask them for a catalog. It is a detailed catalog. I mean, it looked like a phone book. I finally threw it away. I had it from 2015 and 2016, and I just threw it away. I just threw it away. I would show it to you, but it's like really, really thick. They have like every curricula that is on the market to date, with the exception of a few. But I think they finally got Logic of English in there and Elemental Science, which are the two that I use. But that's because I'm classical, mind you. Remember, well-trained mind, classical thinking, Charlotte Mason, read books. That's me. I don't know what your curriculum is going to be, but they have everything in there. And you can always compare. You can go there and you can say, I want secular or I want Christian, and you can search what they have. You can look through the descriptions and see how they offer, see how they align with Common Core, if they don't align with Common Core. And then you'll know what your options are. And then you go from there. That's it. If you want more details, I can give you some more details and be a little bit more specific and break down each one and probably do a workshop on how to work through your why and all this stuff and give you some prompts. Because, I mean, when I say that I did some deep reflection, I did some real deep reflection, and it took me about 2 months to go through it before I actually purchased my first curricula, and I have been using it ever since. Ever since. I had sat down and I had mapped out what it is that I wanted for my kids all the way through high school. So I knew exactly what I needed, when I needed it, and I've been following it ever since. And I've always budgeted accordingly. When I'm in my savings plan, I know I'm getting ready to buy this curriculum at this time. I'm looking for this sale if possible. And that's just how it goes. I know exactly what I'm buying. I know I have 4 vendors, 5 vendors. This video is getting long, longer than I wanted to for me to just be going over some steps, but I only have 4 or 5 vendors that I've purchased from, and I haven't purchased from anybody else. Classical Academic Press, Logic of English, Elemental Science, Beast Academy. Did I say Logic of English? And Geo Matters. And just basically books off of Amazon and from the library. But I will tell you this, DK Publishing is my stuff. I love DK Publishing. All of their books, every last one of them. So yeah, those are the only people that I buy from. I love them immensely. They are almost, I'm not even gonna say almost perfect because they are perfect. And the books that I've gotten off of Amazon, and that covers everything that I need from, artistic pursuit. That's art. And that covers everything that I need from art, music, science, social studies. Oh, Simply Charlotte Mason. I do get one thing from Simply Charlotte Mason. and I can go into detail about that if you like. Just leave a comment below. This is really, really long. I am so sorry. But the baby finally went to sleep, so my brain was scattered. Thank you. Leave a comment down below. Like and subscribe.